Hi, I'm David House. I'm a new energy strategist. I have a question for all three of you, actually, that you've done a great job of describing the conditions and that policies can help. What I was wondering is, will your offices support an actual engineered plan for a conversion from our fossil fuel-based economy to one based on renewable energy? Right now there's a lot of talk about changing policy, but there's really no concrete plan, which makes it difficult for investors to get behind this, as well as businesses, because they're not sure what's going to happen. Do you guys see the creation of a plan on a national basis?
I don't see the creation of a national, single, detailed plan. I see a suite of different plans that combine, and with any luck, we'll have some flexibility as technologies emerge and change. None of them works very well if you have a systemic subsidy for fossil fuels that ignores the harm that they cause to farmers, fishermen, foresters, all of us. So at the heart of that suite of strategies, I think, has to be a revenue-neutral carbon fee. Then you can start to look at what we need for wind, what we need for solar. Is there a way to burn through our nuclear waste and turn that into cheap, safe power? And then, through the rest of the efficiency is usually the best payback. So what's our efficiency strategy? And I think that trying to do them in an array is probably better than to try to push something through that is the massive global strategy. There's very little appetite right now in Congress for massive global legislation on stuff. The theory from many of our colleagues is that the federal government should basically go away and just fund the Army and shut up. I think having to be specific sector by sector is an advantage in terms of getting it right. It makes it a political lift that is easier, and it allows for more flexibility in changing the terms of things as they go forward. So, Bob Morton's here. He has Newport biodiesel. He has very specific issues that need to be addressed in order to allow him to keep doing what he's been doing, which is to take waste and turn it into fuel for us all. And it's easier for me to address Bob's suite of issues narrowly than to have it be part of the ginormous unified global theory. So the answer to your question is yes, but I think not as a single giant package, but as a suite for an array of different, more specific elements.
Senator, I think what you... I was going to say, I just think in addition to that, I think one of the challenges, that even though in theory that sounds like a terrific idea, that we would see divisions and battles even among really important environmental advocacy groups. And I think that would be very unproductive for us sort of trying to move this forward. We have some basic things to do, which is convince, folks that we have to stop subsidizing fossil fuels and end subsidies, and so none of this will work until we do that. So I'm fearful that if we tried to do some big plan that addressed everything, it would need to change pretty regularly based on market conditions and new technologies and new kind of discoveries, and the chance of getting, at least in my side of the house, Republicans to embrace that would be, they would say it's a government takeover of the environment, or something.
So just a quick pushback on that if this plan was developed by the private enterprise system itself and presented as a benefit for business, would that not make a difference?
Well, I think the private industry could do that now. That would be, if they said, look, here's a model that we think is good for the environment, good for our business, and we'd like to implement it, I think that's terrific.
So my suggestion would be that your offices could actually be the incubator to gather those folks together. Just a thought.
First of all, the Department of Energy is a quadrennial energy review. Secretary Moniz started here in Providence and went that afternoon to Hartford. There'll be about 20 meetings. They will prepare a long-term plan and smartly, and they understand all these issues as well, better than we do. So at the 50,000-foot level, you're going to get a grand plan for American energy sort of future. But if you want to move things at the practical level, the most powerful tool is the tax system. Because you have two alternatives in Washington, D.C. If you want the type of behavior, you subsidize it with funds, and with David's crowd, particularly in the House, generating, public program to provide resources and encourage. For example, something like weatherization, which is a no-brainer. They've been fighting like crazy to cut the weatherization. And we know, if you go and fix up a house, put in insulation, et cetera, you cut demand, you save energy, et cetera. They don't like that. That's the waste of money. We got a deficit austerity. That's what we're doing. You get a tax system. One of the things about tax system is the effect is almost immediate, because once the code changes, every business person in the country gets a call from their accountant that morning. Excuse me, don't do this and do that. So it's a very powerful tool. So not just in the sense of perhaps the feasibility of getting it done, but how it almost immediately transforms incentives for not just business, but for individual. And so Sheldon's emphasis on this carbon tax is not only sort of, it's politically effective, it will also be, I think, the most efficient way to encourage these changes. So you'll get a big plan, but if you want real effect, you've got to go in, I think, and make some structural changes with the tax system.